Ethan slammed his palm onto the table. Not a slap. Something heavier. The kind of sound that makes your jaw tighten before you even register what happened. The glasses rattled. Water trembled inside them, catching light. I said I don't want ice. How hard is that to understand? The waiter stood there, halfway through an apology that was already pointless. Around them voices dimmed. Forks paused midair. Eyes flicked over, registered the scene, then looked away fast. Like touching something too hot and pretending you didn't feel it. Mara sat across from him and counted the droplets sliding down her water glass. 1, 2, 3. As if that could anchor her. I'm sorry, sir. I'll fix it right away. Ethan leaned back. Arms crossed. You should have fixed it the first time. She kept her eyes on the condensation. It moved slow, clinging to the glass before gravity finally won. It's fine, she said. Her voice barely made it past her own lips. Really? He didn't even look at her. It's not fine. That's the problem. People think it's fine to do half a job. The waiter nodded and disappeared. The silence that followed wasn't clean. It hung there, thick and suffocating. Like being trapped in a room where the air hadn't moved in hours. This place was your idea, Ethan said, his voice still sharp from the exchange with the waiter. He set his phone down on the table, screen flashing once before going dark. If we're coming somewhere like this, I expect it to be handled properly. Mara didn't answer immediately. She watched the waiter retreat, shoulders stiff. Around them, the room stayed smooth and composed. Low lighting. Polished wood. Jazz threading quietly through the air. Outside, rain dragged itself down the tall windows, Fifth Avenue reduced to smeared light and movement. You didn't need to raise your voice, she said. Ethan turned to her, irritation quick and immediate. I didn't raise my voice. You did, she replied, calm but firm. He was doing his job. His jaw tightened. And I'm paying for the experience. That's not unreasonable. She held his gaze. It's a restaurant, Ethan. Not a test. He leaned back in his chair, clearly annoyed now. You're the one who wanted this place. If I'm going to make the effort, I want it done right. There it was. The word he kept circling. Effort. She glanced at his phone, face down but never really out of reach. Then back at him. Effort isn't about where we sit. His expression hardened. Don't tell me what effort is. The line landed between them, final and flat. Mara made a small adjustment, then stilled. The leather chair pressed cool against the backs of her thighs, her short heels tucked neatly beneath her. She smoothed the fabric of her red gown, modest and fitted, though it didn't need it. With no coat to reach for, she let her hands rest in her lap, more aware of how exposed she felt than she cared to admit. Something settled in her chest then. She glanced at her watch. 8:15. The rain hammered against the windows, insistent and unforgiving. Her early shift waited in the morning, and the thought made her chest tighten. Her apartment was still under renovation. Jenna's place had become her temporary home, familiar but not hers. The date was going nowhere, and she could feel it sinking her further into fatigue. So, Ethan said, finally looking at her. My brother's engagement party is in 3 weeks. Oh, you didn't mention that. I assumed you'd come. She hesitated, fingers brushing the edge of her glass. I'm not sure I can get the day off. Trying very hard to be polite. Ethan exhaled sharply, irritation flickering across his face. You switch schedules all the time. She shook her head, a small, tired gesture. It's not that simple. He leaned back, jaw tight, scrolling his phone like it might give him an answer. It kind of is. The words pressed down on her, folding her in just enough to make room for his certainty. She swallowed, tried to make her chest feel smaller. I'll see what I can do. That's not an answer. Ethan corrected. She met his eyes. It's the only one I have right now. His phone buzzed. He glanced down. Typed something quickly. Smiled at the screen. Mara looked away. Among the low hum of conversations in the front, a man in his early 30s sitting alone elegantly in a way that didn't ask for attention. His jacket left on the stool beside him as if it had slipped his mind. He looked tall, even seated, relaxed without trying to be, the kind of ease that comes from knowing exactly who you are. One hand rested around a glass he hadn't touched. He wasn't staring, not in any obvious way, but his gaze lingered just long enough on Mara and Ethan to catch the tension between them, to understand what wasn't being said at the table. There was something in the way he watched, a quiet, almost amused curiosity, like he was thinking about how a man like Ethan behaved on a date. Ethan followed her gaze, brow furrowed. The man at the front adjusted subtly, as if he'd sensed the energy change in the room. His eyes flicked to their table and paused just for a moment. Mara felt it anyway, The strange prickling awareness of being seen without judgment. Ethan drained his drink. "I need to step away for a minute," he muttered, voice tight. "Call I have to take." She nodded. "Okay." He stood, already fumbling with his phone, and moved toward the restroom. As he passed a woman walking past him, he glanced at her distractedly. Mara felt a rush of embarrassment for some reason, cheeks warming, as Ethan's attention wavered so carelessly. Mara was left alone. The chair across from her suddenly seemed enormous. She stared at it for a moment, then at the bread basket. She broke it in half absent-mindedly, letting her fingers fidget with something while her mind wandered. The man from the front stepped closer. He moved deliberately, slow enough to be polite but confident enough to signal that he belonged there. His features were striking without trying, sharp cheekbones, dark hair just long enough to brush the collar of his jacket, the kind of face that could make someone glance twice without realizing it. He stopped at her table. "Sorry," he said. His voice was calm, even not rehearsed. "I don't usually do this." She looked up, guarded. "Do what?" "Interrupt," he said, gesturing vaguely toward the door. "You looked like you might need a lifeline." Her first instinct was to refuse. Her second was to laugh. The sound surprised them both. She hesitated, then let herself answer. "I might," she admitted. He gave a small, unassuming smile. Not wide, not flirtatious, just honest. "I'm Daniel." "Mara," she replied. His eyes flicked to the empty chair. "Is he coming back?" She thought of Ethan, then answered, "Probably." Daniel nodded slightly. "Do you want that to be true?" The question landed softly and stayed. Mara opened her mouth, then closed it. "I don't know you." "That's fair," he said. "Then let me ask it another way. Do you want company right now?" The rain is now stopping. Mara hesitated a heartbeat longer, then said, "Yes. Just for a minute." Daniel drew out the chair across from her but didn't sit right away, pausing until she gave a small nod. Only then did he settle in. Mara let out a slow breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Daniel glanced past her shoulder and leaned in slightly. "He's coming back," he murmured. "Want to leave him?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "Yes." Daniel told her, "Just play along." Ethan reappeared with his phone still in his hand, thumb hovering as if the call might pull him back any second. He stopped short when he saw Daniel sitting across from Mara. "What's this?" he asked, voice tight, eyes moving between them. Mara straightened. Hands folded in her lap, then unfolded again. "This is Daniel." Daniel stood, calm, extending a hand. "Hey, I was just saying hello. We went to the same college." Ethan laughed sharply, humorless. "Where?" "St. George," Daniel said smoothly without hesitation. Mara felt the moment stretch, her brain catching up too late. "Yeah," she said, covering it fully. "Yeah. St. George." Ethan frowned. "You went to St. George?" "Yes," she said, meeting his gaze. "That's funny. You never mentioned it." "You never asked," she shrugged. Silence pressed down again. Daniel stayed standing, hands relaxed at his sides. "Come." Not confrontational, just giving Ethan a quiet way out. "I was just heading out," Daniel said. "Saw Mara and thought I'd say hi." Ethan looked him over. Took in the tailored coat. The quiet confidence. The way he didn't flinch. "Sure you were," Ethan muttered. Daniel smiled slightly. Not mocking. Almost sympathetic. "Have a good night." He turned to Mara. "Nice seeing you again." She nodded. "You too." Daniel walked away without looking back. Ethan dropped into his chair. "That was weird." She reached for her water. Her hand shook just enough to notice. It was just a conversation. With a stranger. "With Daniel," she corrected. Ethan stared at her. "Are you trying to make a point?" She took a sip. The ice clinked softly. "I'm trying to finish dinner." He exhaled through his nose. "You're being dramatic." Something in her loosened then. Not snapped. Just unclenched. "I'm going to the restroom," she said, standing. "Now?" "Yes." She didn't wait for a response. In the restroom, she leaned against the counter, short heels planted on the tiled floor, palms flat against the cool marble. The red gown sat neatly on her frame, modest but unmistakably dressy, and without a coat she felt every bit of the night still clinging to her. Her reflection looked worn. Mascara still in place. The smile completely gone. She breathed. "What?" Then twice. When she came back, Ethan was gone. His jacket was missing from the back of the chair. His glass half full. A text buzzed her phone. *Work emergency. Had to take it. We'll talk later. *. She stared at the screen, then at the empty seat. Daniel waited near the entrance, umbrella in hand. He hesitated when he saw her alone. "He left," she said before he could ask. "Oh, that was such a relief. I was about to anyway." "Thank you," she sounded brighter. He nodded. "I figured." They stood there as the rain finally stopped. The streets of New York looked freshly washed, calm and shining under the lights. Music spilled from nearby restaurants and bars, and a few car horns sounded as cars passed, the city settling back into itself. He placed his gray jacket over her shoulders, adjusting it to cover her properly. "Thank you, Daniel," she said softly. "Can I walk you to a cab?" Daniel asked. She looked at him. The way he said it. "Yeah," she said. "Okay." The rain started again. Daniel flagged a cab with ease, holding the umbrella so it covered her more than him. "Thank you," she said. "You didn't have to do that." He shrugged. "Well, I did." He put on a smile. The cab rolled to a stop. The driver leaned across and pushed the door open, and she returned the coat. They shared a look. Something unfinished. She slid into the back seat. The door closed. Then she leaned forward and gave the driver her address. The cab pulled away. Daniel stood there a moment longer, then typed a quick message on his phone to his driver. *, you can come now. I'm walking. *. At home, Jenna was stretched out on the couch with a book, legs tucked under her. She glanced up. "All right. Give me the summary," putting on a bright smile. Mara barely made it 2 steps inside. "Well?" Jenna said, still smiling. "Was it amazing? Did you connect? Was he fine as?" She stopped when she really looked at Mara's face. "Oh, it was bad." Mara dropped her keys on the table. "He yelled at a waiter. He won't give me any attention. He admired another lady passing." Jenna winced. "No. And then he left." No. "And a complete stranger pretended he knew me so I could get out." Jenna sat upright so fast the book slipped from her hand. "I'm sorry, what?" Mara laughed, a little breathless, like she still couldn't believe it herself. "He walked me to a cab. Didn't even ask for my number." Jenna stared. "Okay, first, Ethan's so rude. Second, that's suspiciously respectful of the strange prince." "I know. What was his name?" "Daniel." "Last name?" Mara paused. "I didn't ask." Jenna groaned, rubbing her face. "Did you at least get anything? Job? Company? Clue?" "No. So for all we know, he could be anyone." "He wasn't," Mara said quietly. Jenna studied her for a moment, then smiled slowly. "You liked him." Mara didn't respond. Across the city, Daniel stood by the windows of his penthouse, suit jacket resting on a chair he hadn't touched. Clara had come by immediately. She entered to remind him about dinner, then left when she saw his face. It is familiar to her now. He wanted to be left alone. The rain traced familiar lines down the glass. He tried to remember the last time someone had caught him off guard like that. 3 weeks had passed. Life resumed its rhythm. Mara pulled long hours at the hospital, joked with patients, called her mother on Sundays. Daniel returned to the restaurant more than once, always alone on the same table and always hoping to meet her again. They didn't know it yet, but the city was already drawing its lines tighter around them. Rain had been falling for days without apology. Not the dramatic kind that flooded streets and stopped traffic. This was quieter, persistent. The kind that soaked into moods and made time feel slower than it was. Mara stood near the nurse's station, flipping through a paperback she'd already read twice. It was just something to hold. Something to keep her hands busy while her mind wandered where she didn't want it to. "You're staring at that page like it personally offended you," Jenna said, sliding into the chair beside her. Mara didn't look up. "It knows what it did." Jenna leaned over, read the page, then scoffed. "You've been on page 93 for 10 minutes. Maybe I like consistency. Or maybe you're thinking about Ethan." That got her attention. Mara closed the book slowly. "Why would I be thinking about Ethan?" "Because he called you. Last night. While you were in the shower. He left a voicemail." Her shoulders tightened. "What did he say?" "That he overreacted. That work's been stressful. That you shouldn't take it personally." Mara laughed once. Flat. Impressive how he managed to apologize without actually apologizing. "He wanted me to be his date for his brother's engagement, but no." Jenna studied her. "You going to call him back?" "No." "Like, no, not now? Or no, never?" Mara thought about the restaurant. The waiter. The way Ethan talked to her. The way he left. How tired she'd been of explaining herself long before Ethan ever showed up. "Never," she said quietly. Jenna nodded, approving. Growth. Mara leaned back against the counter. I don't even want a relationship right now. I think I'm done wanting one. That sounds suspiciously like something you say right before you trip into one. Please don't manifest nonsense, Mara said. I'm already crashing on your couch like a cautionary tale. Jenna smirked. You're not crashing. You're temporarily inhabiting. Big difference. My landlord has been temporarily renovating for 2 months, Mara said. At this point, I think the man just likes collecting deposits. Jenna laughed. Well, tell him to hurry. I can't keep hearing about the mysterious stranger who rescued you and vanished into the rain. Mara rolled her eyes, but her smile faded faster than she expected. Across the city, Daniel's penthouse glowed with sterile perfection. Everything in its place. Nothing disturbed. Clara grows worried. She always did. You haven't been touching your dinner, she said gently, standing near him with her arms crossed. Daniel barely looked up from his laptop. I will later. You said that yesterday. I worked late. You work late every day. He finally glanced at her. I'm fine. Clara didn't argue. She just slid the plate closer anyway. Your grandmother would say you're lying. That got a reaction. A small one. His jaw tightened. She'd also say you're thinner, Clara continued. And quieter. Daniel closed the laptop. Rubbed his face. I'm just busy. With what? He didn't answer. She softened. You've been different since that night. He looked away. Clara sighed. You don't have to tell me. Just don't disappear inside your own house. I hope she is responding to treatment. Later, long after Clara retired to her room, Daniel stood at the window again. Rain traced familiar paths down the glass. He thought about a woman who had folded her hands when she was nervous, who smiled like she didn't quite trust happiness yet. He hadn't been back to the restaurant in days. It felt too obvious now. The hospital was loud in a different way. Controlled chaos. Voices layered over each other. Shoes squeaking. A distant code announcement that made everyone tense for half a second before life resumed. Mara stepped out of an elevator, book tucked under her arm, hair pulled back in a way that meant she was almost off shift. She didn't see Daniel until she collided with him. The book slipped from her grasp, hit the floor, pages splaying open. Oh, I'm so sorry, they both said at the same time, bending down together. Their heads nearly knocked. They froze. Mara looked up first. Her breath caught. Not sharply. Just enough to notice. Daniel held the book carefully, like it mattered. Like it was something breakable. Mara? He said, like someone who won a lottery ticket, softer than the noise around them. Daniel? She echoed. He handed the book back. Their fingers brushed. Neither of them moved away right away. I thought you vanished, she said before thinking. He smiled faintly. I thought you did. They stood there, rain audible against the high windows. People passed around them, unaware. How have you been? He asked. Busy, she said. Tired? Normal. He nodded. Good. Pause. Did that guy ever call you back? Daniel asked carefully. Just curious. She shook her head. He did. I didn't answer. Something eased in Daniel's shoulders. Subtle. Almost invisible. I'm glad, he said, then added quickly, that you're okay. I mean. She studied him. You look tired too. He laughed quietly. I get that a lot lately. There was a moment of silence and Daniel broke it. Is there a way to get to cardiology without taking the main elevators? Why? My grandmother is there, he said. Room 614. I'm still learning how this place works. Mara blinked. Mrs. Whitmore? Daniel stopped short. You know her? She's been here a while. She doesn't let anyone forget it. She nodded. Cardiology's 2 floors up. The side elevators move faster. She hesitated, then gestured toward the elevators. If you want, I can walk you up. I'd like that, Daniel said. They rode in silence. Not uncomfortable. Just careful. Mrs. Whitmore's room was bright despite the rain. Curtains pulled back. Mara? Is that you? Mrs. Whitmore's voice rang out before they even entered. Mara smiled and pushed the door open. It's me. There she is, Mrs. Whitmore said. My favorite menace. Mara grinned. I bring chaos and conversation. And stolen pudding, Mrs. Whitmore added. Don't think I forgot. Daniel blinked. You stole pudding? She hates the vanilla ones, Mara said. It's mercy, really? Mrs. Whitmore laughed, then winced slightly, hand going to her chest. Mara was at her side immediately. Easy, she murmured. Slow breaths. Daniel watched closely, beaming with joy. Not anxious. Trusting. She keeps track of my pills better than I do, Mrs. Whitmore said once settled. And she tells me stories about the outside world. Not the boring ones. Mara squeezed her hand. You like the gossip. I like knowing people are still ridiculous, Mrs. Whitmore said. Her gaze moved to Daniel. You should try listening more. He smiled. I'm learning. When Mara stepped out, Daniel followed her. You're good with her, he said. She reminds me of my grandmother, Mara replied. Stubborn. Observant. Always pretending not to notice things she absolutely notices. Daniel hesitated. Would you want to get dinner sometime? I promise to make it worth the time. Mara looked at him. Really looked. Should I say no? She said, smiling. Yes, she could. It didn't feel like a resolution. It felt like the beginning of another question. Rain had a way of flattening New York. It pressed the noise down, blurred the edges, made even busy streets feel like they were holding their breath. Mara noticed it the moment she stepped out of the hospital that evening. The way the air smelled clean instead of sharp. The way her shoulders dropped without permission. She hadn't slept properly in days. Final semester did that to you. The pressure wasn't loud. It sat quietly behind everything. In the back of your mind while you charted vitals. In the pause before you answered a question you definitely knew. In the way your body stayed tense even when nothing was happening. They started going out more now. Clara noticed his mood now cheering. On a particular day at work, Mara's phone buzzed. Daniel, are you still on for tonight? She stared at the screen longer than necessary. He'd called it a low-key date earlier that week, half smiling when he said it, like he was testing whether she'd laugh. Asterisk, you picked the place. I'll just pay attention. Asterisk. She had laughed. Harder than she expected. Asterisk, Mara, I'm on. But if I fall asleep mid-sentence, you're walking me home. Asterisk. Asterisk, Daniel, deal. I'll take the blame. Asterisk. She slipped her phone into her pocket and headed for the subway, rain dotting her hair, scrubs sticking faintly to her skin. She didn't dress up much when she got home. Jeans. A sweater. Styled up her hair in a bun. Jenna was sprawled on the couch. You're smiling, Jenna said without looking up. I am not. You absolutely are. Mara grabbed her bag. I'm going out. Jenna's head snapped up. I hope it's the Rain Prince again? Mara hesitated. Then nodded. Yeah. Jenna grinned. Good. About time. Mara leaned against the doorframe. You're really okay with this? Are you kidding? Jenna said. You haven't talked about a man like this since, ever? Mara snorted. That's not comforting. It is, Jenna said gently. Because you cut Ethan off. Completely. No texts. No just checking in. You didn't even sound conflicted. Mara thought of Ethan's last message. The half apology. The late-night call she didn't answer. I'm done, she said. And meant it. Jenna softened. Then let this lead wherever it goes. Or curiosity. Or whatever this is. Just don't shut it down before it has a chance. Mara waved by and smiled. Daniel was already at the restaurant when Mara arrived. Already seated. But waiting. He stood when he saw her. When their eyes met, his face changed. He smiled and waved. There you are, he said. You sound relieved. I am. They hugged this time. Brief. Real. She could feel his breath steady against her shoulder. The restaurant was tucked away on a side street she loved. Low light. Exposed brick. A place you could talk without raising your voice. They slid into a booth. No menu rush. No awkward scanning of phones. So, Daniel said, resting his forearms on the table. Tell me what I don't know. She smiled. That's broad. Start anywhere. Mara exhaled. I'm an only child. My dad died when I was 19. My mom's still alive. Strong. Too strong sometimes. She likes to pretend nothing cracks her. Daniel nodded slowly. Didn't interrupt. I chose nursing because I wanted to be useful, she continued. After my dad, everyone kept saying, at least he didn't suffer. And all I could think was, someone was there. Someone helped him. I wanted to be that person for someone else. She paused. Also, I'm scared of not matching. That admission surprised her as much as him. Daniel's voice was quiet when he spoke. My father built the company. From nothing. I inherited it when he died. People think that makes it easier. Does it? No, he said. It makes you wonder if anything you do is actually yours. She felt that land. My fear, he went on, is becoming a man who only exists inside responsibility. I don't want to wake up one day and realize I traded connection for control. Their food arrived. The atmosphere calmed but didn't break their conversation. They ate slowly. Talked about small things like they did on their first date. Then deeper ones. Then circled back again. Mara told him about night shifts. About the first time a patient in her care died. How she felt. Daniel listened like it mattered. At one point, he reached across the table and brushed a crumb from her sleeve without thinking. Stopped himself halfway, then finished the motion carefully, like he was asking permission with his eyes. She didn't pull away. After dinner they walked. The rain had slowed to a mist, streetlights stretching across the pavement. He didn't try to steer her anywhere. Just matched her pace. This is my favorite part, she admitted. The quiet after. Me too, he said. It's where people show themselves. She glanced at him. You always talk like that? He smiled. Only when I mean it. They stopped near the river. The city shimmered across the water. Daniel leaned against the railing. Can I ask you something slightly unfair? Probably. Were you really done with dating that night? She didn't answer right away. Yes, she said finally. I was tired of wanting more than I was getting. And now? She met his eyes. Now I'm paying attention. Something softened in his face. Relief maybe. Or resolve. I wanted to see you again because I enjoyed you, he said. Not because I needed a distraction. I need you to know that. I do, she said. They didn't kiss there. Instead, they stood close enough that it felt intentional. Later that night, Mara lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Not anxious. Awake in a different way. Across the city, Daniel sat at his desk. Clara hovered nearby. Who is she? She asked. What? Mama Clay, he said smiling. He looked up. Am I that obvious? She smiled. Yes, very obvious. I know you've been carrying too much for too long. It shows when you finally put it down for a moment, but it's different for the past few days. He thought of Mara's laugh. The way she spoke about her work. The steadiness beneath her exhaustion. Okay, I met someone, he said. Clara's eyebrows lifted. Ah. That's all you have to say? She shrugged. I've been waiting. She went closer to her and patted his hands. Since June I thought you've locked your heart. I am so happy for you. The weeks that followed didn't blur. They sharpened with final exams and clinicals. Daniel found excuses to be near her world without invading it. He met her after shifts. Dropped her home. Sat with her while she studied, silent and present. He noticed how her hands shook when she was overtired. How she smiled bigger when she was happy. How she relaxed when he didn't ask for more than she could give. Mara noticed how he never rushed her. How he remembered details. How he listened even when the conversation wasn't flattering. Jenna noticed everything. He's good for you, she said one night, sprawled on the floor with takeout. You're brighter. Mara smiled. Don't make it weird. It already is, Jenna said. In a good way. One day Mara saw a missed call from Daniel on her phone. She'd been released early from her shift, an unexpected mercy. Her scrubs still smelled faintly of antiseptic. Her hair was pulled back, her body sore in the quiet way that came from standing too long and carrying too much. She was halfway down the hospital steps when her phone buzzed with a message. Asterisk, can we meet today if you got off early? I missed you. Asterisk. She stopped walking. She typed back. Asterisk, yeah. You messaged at the right time. I was just released early. I need a long sleep though, but I can't wait to see you. Asterisk. Another message arrived. Asterisk, I can't wait either. Want to go somewhere green before you finally go home? I'll pick you up. Asterisk. She looked down at herself. Scrubs. Sneakers. No effort. I'm not dressed for a date. The reply came fast. Asterisk, good. Neither am I. Asterisk. When Daniel pulled up, he stepped out immediately. He opened the door for her and looked at her like she mattered. You look beautiful even in this, he said as she got in. Oh wow, she said. Honest, he said. I like that. They drove with calm, relaxing music. The park was quiet in that late afternoon way, when most people were still working and the light felt borrowed. They walked side by side, not touching, but close enough that Mara felt the heat from his arm when he moved. She realized something felt easy. They sat on a bench overlooking a small pond. Ducks clustered near the edge. A child's laughter carried faintly from somewhere behind them. Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Can I ask you something? He said. She nodded. What kind of family do you like? He asked. Just curious. A child, hubby and I, she answered as her eyebrows lifted slightly. I prefer two, a boy and a girl, he said, then added, I am the only child. She looked shy in a very cute way, watching the water ripple. I'm not looking for something big, she said after a moment. I don't have space for it right now. He turned toward her, looking quite down. Then what do you have space for? She thought about it. About wanting to further school. About her mother's quiet encouragement over the phone. About the way her father's absence still shaped her choices. I could be a girlfriend, she said. Present. Honest. Just, not a future I can't carry yet. Daniel didn't smile. He didn't hide his interest either. It's fine by me, he said. They walked some more. Talked about small things. Patients who stayed with her longer than they should. Meetings he dragged himself through. The strange loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling like you're alone inside your own head. When he dropped her off, neither of them rushed to get out. Their eyes held. Just a second too long. I had a good time, she said. So did I. He hesitated, then leaned in and kissed her cheek. Slow. Intentional. Close enough that she felt it in her chest long after she stepped out of the car. Jenna didn't even let Mara take off her shoes before pouncing. So, she said, grinning. Hospital scrubs to park date. Rate it. Mara laughed, dropping onto the couch. You're ridiculous. Hope he kissed this time, she said, smiling more curiously. So are you too. Mara didn't allow her to finish. I need to rest a little, exams and clinicals by. Jenna groaned. So you don't want to tell me? Mara smiled to herself. Then answered her as she was entering the room. I told him I'm not ready for forever. Jenna jumped up. Why, girl? Mara softened. Okay. I want to rest now. Later that night, Mara called her mother. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Your father would have liked that, she said. Take your time. The visit to Daniel's grandmother happened on a quiet afternoon. Since her discharge, Mara hasn't seen her. The woman took Mara's hand immediately, warm grip, eyes bright. I've missed my favorite menace, she said. I wondered when I'd finally meet you properly. Daniel watched as they talked, both seeming fascinated by each other. By the time Mara's graduation came, her life felt a little more grounded. The months of staying with Jenna while her apartment was renovated were finally behind her, and her own space with its freshly finished corners already felt like home. She really is going to miss Jenna. That day they were all there, her mother, Jenna, Clara, and Daniel's grandmother, each seated with quiet pride, watching Mara step into a new chapter surrounded by the people who had, in their own ways, helped shape her journey. Daniel didn't talk for long. He took Mara's hand. I know you don't like promises, he said quietly. So I won't make one you didn't ask for. He pressed a key into her palm, nodding toward the posh car waiting outside, its lights glowing softly through the window. Then he opened a small velvet box. The diamond necklace caught the light at once, simple and refined, chosen with care rather than excess. I want to be your boyfriend, he said, calm but deliberate. For real. If that's what you want too. Mara hesitated just long enough to really feel the moment. Her expression flickered, something thoughtful crossing her face. Jenna caught it and shot her a look that clearly said, do not overthink this. Mara met her eyes, smiled, then looked into Daniel's eye. Yes. The tension in the room softened, as if the space itself had finally exhaled, the moment settling into something warm and certain. Daniel's smile reached his eyes, slow and real, and as he fastened the necklace around her neck, Mara felt it, a flutter she hadn't allowed herself to notice in years. Oh, just the present. Enough for now. What began as a single act of kindness had grown into something neither of them planned. Quiet conversations. Trust built slowly. A connection formed without games or performance. And standing there, she wondered when love shows up like this, gentle and honest, exactly when you've stopped looking. Do you finally trust it, or do you spend the rest of your life waiting for it to disappear?